Okay, hello guys. We're on the road again. This time my wife is with me, not Paul. And yesterday we bought a car from Copart online that was a gamble. So it has the possibility of being super cheap and a fun little build, or it has the possibility of being a big money loser. Not big money loser, but money loser. So we'll show you what it is a little bit later, but right now we picked it up at Copart and we're on the way to, it was a car that had no keys at all. So we got it bought super cheap, $425, if you can believe that. But there's no keys, so the car might not run, might be some major problem mechanically, we don't know, but it just has a little dent in one of the fenders, front fenders. Is the only damage I could see on it. So we will get to the dealership. So I paid $425 for the entire car. Having the dealership make a new key matched to this is $300. So we're still in it cheap, but let's see what happens. Let's see if it starts. We'll let you know. All right, I made it back from Copart, and it's almost dark, so I hope you guys can see this all right. But here's the car. It's an '07 Mitsubishi Eclipse Spider. As I showed you before, that's the only damage I see is right there, unless there's something else. I did see a cracked fog light right there, so we got to replace that. But the main reason I got it so cheap was because there was no key, and we didn't know if it ran or not. So I told you before. Got the key made. Here it is. That's a $333 key on a $425 car. But it works. The guy jumped in there, and once he got it programmed, it started right up. Here's hopefully the battery is good enough to start it here in a minute. Just pop the trunk. Nothing in there. The receipt. But it's really good. There's a few little dings, like right there, a little ding. But the top's in good shape. Interior. Some of the dash is kind of like peeling up right here, and I'm gonna have to figure out what's involved in getting that stuck back down. Looks like the seams come loose right here. But everything else, I mean, it's leather, heated seats, power top. I'm going to try that out here in just a second. I'm anxious to see if power top works, because that could be very expensive if that doesn't work. So hopefully let's start it up and let's see if still got enough juice to start it. Check the mileage and all that stuff. Bummer. All right, let me get my jump box and we'll try it again. So let's see what all works on this thing. There's heated seats, power top, some lights here. Looks like an airbag light. So we have to figure out what's going on with that. Sounds good. Starts easy. Now for the big test. Let's check the top. Open. Push the button right here. There goes the windows. Here's something working. Let's see. So that came up. So I'm sure what next has to happen is this thing probably has to pop up, and this top part has to release. For some reason it's not doing that. Let's see if it needs to charge up some more or something. Alright, so I've got the Spider in the shop here. As I've had time to look around a little bit, I kind of know what's wrong with it, most of it. So, oh, say hi to the new shop hand. That's Finn. Chowing down on a tennis ball. So, we already talked about, we got this dent. And what I found out on the top the other day when we were trying to raise it, and we only raised about halfway, that's all it raises. So that is a problem we got to try to figure out. I have no idea how complicated or difficult that's going to be to get that to work right. I'm just going to have to dig into it, do some more research. I know we have to take the back seat out to get to the motor that runs that thing, but there's a series of switches, you know, like it'll only go a certain way if the switch is bad up in the front. It makes it think that the latch is still latched, so there's all sorts of things, but it'll raise up about like this, and then I think the next thing that's supposed to happen is that the little back flap is supposed to come up, and then it goes down inside there, but this does not start coming up, so I have to figure that out. And then we got the airbag light on, and I did find the previous owner's paperwork in there and contacted her to see if she had a key before we went to the dealership and paid the $330 for the key. And she said, well, when it got stolen, so this was a stolen car, which I didn't know, she said it was, she threw away the keys. So then I went to the dealership and paid the money, and then the next day she texted me and said she found another key. So now that key I'm sure won't work with this car anyway, so it's been all reprogrammed. So the next thing, and I asked her when I talked to her about the airbag light, why it was on. She said as far as she knew, the airbags had never been deployed, and I don't see any evidence of any deployed airbags. So that could be something unplugged. It could be something needs to be reset. So we'll have to see. We'll put the scanner on it and see what the scanner says. But other than that, I don't see anything else wrong with this thing. Alright, so I put the scanner on this thing and erased all the codes. Had a bunch of faults on it. Who knows from what, but cleared all the codes out and started it back up. No airbag light. So it looks like that's one problem solved. I don't know why it ever came on. It could have been something with it, how the alarm was set off, and it might have threw a bunch of codes because of that. But like the immobilizer code was on and all that. So anyway, now it looks like all I got is an open door and a seatbelt light. So everything looks good on that. So now if we can just try to figure out what's going on with this top. Alright, so I was able to manually get this top down. I didn't video it. But what you have to do is pull off that subwoofer screen, and there's a tool back behind there attached to the back of the screen. And you put it in a little hole right back there, and you pull this thing this way, and that bypasses the hydraulics. So then you can just lift up the lid right here. It lifts up. You can hold it up with this little tool and this little spot for it that holds it up. And after you've got all your latches undone up here at the front, you just lift this whole top up and it folds down in there, and then you can set it back down, and then you can, when you pull that back, it kind of locks it back down. So you can bypass it. And what I think is the problem, I saw a little bit of fluid down in there on the bottom. I think there's a hydraulic leak. So what I need to do is figure out how to get that seat out, and then the motor to that thing is back there with the little hydraulic tank on it. So I need to check and see what the level of the fluid is in there. And then if it's real low, try to put some in it and see if I can get it to work, and then see if I can see where it's squirting out of the line, and then see how hard the line is to replace. That's the problem. But it is missing this little piece right here. You can see it over there. That goes up and down. I think when the lid comes back down, it pushes on that, and that tells that the button over there that it's down all the way and shuts off the light probably. Anyway, it looks really cool. I like it. I like the design of these little things. $425, remember. Okay, so I've removed the rear seat, and the motor, the pump that we need to look at is behind that speaker. So I'm going to go ahead and take that speaker off, and hopefully we can look in there and see what level that the fluid is in the little reservoir. There's the motor, and there's the reservoir. You can tell that looks very low to me. So I would say we have a leak, but I don't know if that's enough leak to make this thing not work. There's no. I see a little fluid in there on the ground, but there's a bunch over here on this one side. It looks like I might have more than one leak. Well, let me research it a little more.
3 days later.
Alright guys, so it's a few days later, and I did end up deciding that that fluid level in the pump reservoir for the hydraulic fluid for the top was low. So I found this online. This is hydraulic fluid for power tops, and it does all sorts of different things, but I got that and filled it up. You can see about how much it used. So the reservoir is now to the right level, so let's check this top and see what it does. Okay, we'll start it up. So we've got full power to it, so it's not working off battery. Alright, so there we got it. It went down flawlessly. So that tells us that all the switches, there's switches in all different parts of that thing. There's switches up here. Every time it makes a different motion, it has to set some kind of relay or switch off to tell it that it's gone past that motion and to do the next motion. So all that works, obviously. So we must have a small hydraulic leak somewhere in it. I know there's fluid kind of down here below this a little bit, but it's not a lot of it. So it could have been, this is an 07, so 13 years old. It could have been leaking for a long time. So fill it up and let's see how long that lasts and keeps working. So for now, let's go ahead and put all this back together. Get the seat back in there and everything, get everything cleaned back up. I still have not found this piece here. There was also some pieces missing on the frame, like when the top is up, the interior trim pieces on the frame that goes across the top. And Andy was able to go to a pick and pull and found one of these, believe it or not.
Got a local pick and pull here, and we've got to get some stuff for the Eclipse project. And of course, the car that we're looking for is on row 53, which is in the very, very back of the lot back there. Alrighty, well, sorry I didn't film very much of it. We had to hurry up and get all those parts off of the Eclipse that we found in like an hour because the place was closing. So we ended up finding, there was 2 Eclipse spiders there. One of them that was the exact same color as the one Dad has, and then a black one. The one that was the same color as Dad's had been pretty much completely stripped, didn't have any of the plastic pieces we needed or the tool to get the roof up. And so we kind of just abandoned that one and then found the other black one, which had every plastic piece that Dad needed and had the tool to get the canvas top up. And the top itself was kind of smashed from the accident it was in. And so it took us a little bit to get that wedged up and accessible for those plastic pieces. But we got everything, as you saw on the back of the pile there, for 33 bucks. So that's probably saved out a couple $100. Just all those little plastic pieces are usually really expensive on eBay or used or wherever. So glad we got everything we needed and got it done quick. So
that's okay. At least we got them, and that'll help. So really the only piece that I know of I need is this one. And I have not been able to find that so far. So today, I think, now that we've got that working, after we get the back material put back together, I think I might jump over here, jack this thing up, take this front tire off, and inner fender liner, and see if we can get behind that dent and how much pushing out we can do. Let's see if we can get it pushed out enough to where we can get it close enough to use filler and try to get that repaired. Alright, so I've got the inner fender liner off and all that, and there's actually some pretty good access back behind that dent. I don't know if you can be able to see it or not, if I can get the right angle or not, but there's the dent right there. So I'm gonna just get back there with my hands and see if I can push what I can push out, just pushing on it before I start trying to hit anything with a hammer. See what it does. Alright, so I got a big chunk of it pushed back out. So what I think I'm going to do now is go ahead and remove that fender the rest of the way, because if I can, I want to try to, you know, maybe knock it out a little bit more from the back where I can get to it easier. There's some kind of wiring right here. It's hard to get to this little spot here. But if I can get that off, and remember guys, I am not a body man, so but for a $400 car, I'm going to try it myself. It's just not, it's just worth trying to get some practice just on something that's cheap. So I'll try to get this fender off the rest of the way, and then get it over on a stand where I can hit on the back of it. And what I like to do is try to fill all this, you know, once I get it up closer to the surface where it's not much fill, with Bondo, and try to leave me a spot like right here or with tape over it and all up in here, so that I can try to just go ahead and sand all the clear down, and then spray this right here and just blend in, and then re-clear the whole thing. And I might be able to do it where I don't have to paint into the hood or the bumper or any of that. I just want to try to do a blend, but it's awful close to this edge, so I'm not sure if it'll work or not, but we'll try it. Alright, so here we have our dent, and you can see it a little better how deep it is. It's not really bad. As a matter of fact, I'll tape this part off here on the areas I want to make sure that I don't mess up with sanding and banging and stuff. And then I'll go ahead and sand this part, and that way we'll be able to see exactly where the level is of the metal. It's just easier to see once you sand it. And then we'll try to knock it out a little bit more before we fill it. Alright, so I've got this beat out about as good as I'm going to get it. It's semi-smooth, but I've got the, you know, the main crease out of it, and so the rest is just going to be filler, but you can see these parts of the paint's gone. That's a little bit high areas, and part where there's still shiny part that's a little bit low areas, but it's all pretty close. So filler ought to do it. So get this cleaned up. Actually, I'm gonna sand it, make sure I get all the little low areas sanded good, and then we'll clean it up, put some filler on it. Alright, so I've got this filler on there, and as you can see, I've moved my tape back just a little bit so that I have room to feather it down to this original, height, and still protect this so that I can blend. So now I'll get some sandpaper and I'll start trying to sand this in, and I'm sure I'll probably still have some low spots, and then I'll probably put a little bit more filler in it. And the main thing is to try to keep this line right here. That's always the hard part, is keeping the line, body line, and then the rest just try to smooth out the highs and lows. Okay, I moved this to outside because I needed to wash it. Make sure all of it's nice and clean before I do any kind of painting or anything. So I've got all this sanded down and pretty smooth, but before I want to make sure I got all the tape residue off of it, and then next I need to prime it. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and scuff it with this gray scuff pad and some key scuff and prep agent. So the reason we're doing that is we'll prime and color paint this and seal this area that I've used the filler on, and the rest of this whole panel, when we do our blend, we're going to clear coat the whole panel. So we'll put our color right over that, and then just kind of fade out as we go this way, and then we'll clear the whole thing. So we'll get it all scuffed. So I've got it primed. That's about all I'm going to be able to get done tonight. And tomorrow, once when I get time to come down here, I'll sand that down. I think we'll block sand it to 320 or so, and then we'll wet sand it to like 400 or 500, and then we should be ready to do the next step, which is seal it. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in and watching this episode of Rebuild It. And let us know down in the comment sections what you think of a project this cheap. I mean, $425. Is it something that's interesting to even watch? I mean, is it something that's not worth doing an episode on? We enjoy it. I mean, I think for $425, it's fun to see what you can get and drive around and have a working car. But you guys let us know what you think in the comments. And thanks for subscribing. Give us a thumbs up if you like it, and share us with your friends. We'll see you on the next episode.
And always remember, don't retire it if you can rebuild it. See you guys next week. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in and watching this week's episode of Rebuild It. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any awesome content. Have a good one.